Yewande Fodele. I'm the president of TouchLink. This is TouchLink Empowerment Hour, where our goal here is to support, uplift, and empower not just victims of domestic violence, but also our community. We believe there's no information that is wasted. We believe every resource that we have, we believe in sharing it with our community. And that's why I invite, this invitation is open to everyone, whether you are victims or you are not victims. Thirdly, primarily, we provide services to victims and survivors of domestic violence in our community. And we do this one of the ways that we do this is by support session once a month, third Thursday of every month. But if you want to know more about our services and what we do, I will please advise that you check us out on our website, www.touchlink.org, www.touchlink.org. You can check us out and learn more about our services. But we are really here to provide services to people in need, and our goal is to do this. Tonight, it's going to be special. I have my sister, my baby sister, and also my friend, and also one of the people that I so much admire in the church. I'm one of the associate pastor, one of our pastors in the church, but Diana and I, we've come way back. I truly, truly love this woman of God. I love her heart. And also, she inspires me, and I know she inspires a lot of people in our community, especially our church community. She's very industrious. She's a no-nonsense person, even though she looks so pretty, but she's a no-nonsense person. I just like people like that are very, firm and in their belief and in what they want. And she's a go-getter. So I tell you, tonight is going to be special because she is ready for us, and she's ready to really give us a lot of resources. So my advice for everyone is get your notepad, get your phone, anything, whatever your writing material is, because she's about to explode. If that's the right word. But I'm going to allow her to introduce herself because she carries multiple hats, and then she will introduce herself and then take us on this session. And then, so please, if you have any question for her, just put it in the chat box. During the course of our talk, if she allows, we will discuss that. Maybe after our talk, we will take some questions. Questions are really welcome. So please, so you don't forget, as she's talking, you have any question, just put it in the chat box. We'll go over it as soon as the session is over. So, my sister, my whole sister, daughter of the Most High God, the queen of the Agus dynasty.
Oh,
You're welcome. We love you here in TouchLink. So please, this audience wants to know who you are. Can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to really appreciate you for that beautiful intro. I love you so much too, you know that. And I truly, truly appreciate the honor to be here. And I appreciate the honor from the team at TouchLink. You guys do amazing, amazing work. And you actually inspire me every day with the work that you've started, Pastor Yewande, and the team that you have. You have amazing people doing this work, helping people, and the lives that you've changed. And it's truly, truly my honor to be here. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. More importantly, because today is Juneteenth, a day that
Yes.
So, freedom, that's, by God's grace, we'll continue to experience freedom and victory in our life. So I'm truly, truly honored to be here. Thank you so much. So who am I? Who is Diana? I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go through. But I really describe myself as a kingdom-minded entrepreneur. And we're going to kind of go into what does that mean? What is different about being a kingdom entrepreneur? And I'm an advocate for impact-driven leadership. I really believe that if you're a leader, You must be willing to serve. There must be a difference, and there must be an impact, the result of what you're doing. And so I'm fortunate right now to be a mom of two adorable boys. One of them is neurodivergent on the autism spectrum, and wife to an amazing husband. And together we run a couple of companies under the umbrella of something called Care Continuum Group. I started actually in corporate, and I've been fortunate enough to lead transformation and strategy and to serve as a CEO, chief of staff in Fortune 500 companies. And now, we're running and managing our own thing. And really, my focus is to be able to use business and technology as a force for good. So not just about what some people might call the profit you get from there, but to also change and impact lives. So today I'm here as somebody who believes that God can turn your pain into purpose, and that can become and that can become victory for you. Can turn your vision into victory. So thank you so much for the honor, for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to this talk, to our conversation, and welcome to everybody else who is joining and those that will be joining later on. It's an honor to be here once again.
Thank you so much for having us. So we are just going to dive in because of time into our topic tonight, our session on what is kingdom wealth? What does that really mean? And what are we to take home? What are the resources you are ready to provide for us tonight?
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure. I have a deck. I don't know if we can share it. If not, I can just go directly. Okay, I think we're sharing it. Thank you so much, Paula. All right. So I started to do a little introduction. To me, kingdom entrepreneurship is doing business in God's way. Because you can do business in any way. You can do business your own way, but it's really doing business God's way, using the principles of God to do business. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I think for me, my journey really kind of led me to how I do business, to how I do things. And so for me, it's like when I think of myself as a social impact entrepreneur. A lot of what I do is really about social impact. I kind of alluded to it earlier, is about a change in our community. And the Lord can use you to set up different type of businesses, to set up different type of ideas that you can have. But for me, I found that as a result of my background, my experience, I really sort of align, next slide please, I really align more with sort of social impact type of businesses. So real quick, we're gonna go through introduction. What is business? We're gonna do some foundations. We're gonna look at some of the impact that you're gonna have as a kingdom entrepreneur, and we're gonna do some reflections, and hopefully we can get to have some questions, Q&A, at the end, and discuss a little further as well. And I can be more than happy to also go into some of my personal journey in detail. I'm going to cover it now as well. So next slide. So sometimes you can find yourself in a situation where what you love and what the world needs and what you're good at can be what you're paid for. Everything can kind of collide. Other times it doesn't happen so easily. Sometimes it's pain to purpose. Sometimes it's from a vision that you have. And other times it's really more of a survival instinct, Sometimes people will say, oh, hustle mentality. It depends. You can, however you find yourself in entrepreneurship, I think the important thing is to make sure that you are going in the direction that God wants you to go, and you're using the principles from God's word. So even if you didn't start that way, it's not too late. You can always go back and sort of refine. And most of the time for entrepreneurs, next slide, if you look at your journey, you can always find something. So speaking about myself personally, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs and community leaders, people that have always served, they've been in public service. And I didn't really look at it or realize at the time until I started to look back at my own journey. And then it also sort of started to make sense. I'm also very passionate about wisdom, excellence, just keep learning. I believe that you must always keep learning. I'm always doing one course, anybody that knows me. I'm always doing something. So I'm always trying to learn and do research. And, believe it or not, loss and survival actually got me into selling and merchandising, from high school. So I actually got involved in that. And again, this is all me looking back. At the time, they just seemed like accidental things. So, the importance of things that may look like accidents, but really God's way of propelling you into your journey. So while I was also in corporate, personally, I was more like an entrepreneur. I used to do something called think like an owner. I don't just think like, oh, I'm here to work. I'm always looking for ways to be innovative. What can I do differently? I'm always starting projects. I'm always coming up with ideas. Again, this is looking back. That's what we call hindsight. At the time, it just seemed natural to me. And, a major system failure, which led to unfortunate loss in my life, actually made me sort of rethink and look at things differently. So even though I've always been somewhere that I'm very particular about my path and what I wanted to do, and everything is mapped out, I actually felt a different type of push, a different type of pressure after this life event in 2018. And then, shameless plug here, in 2020, our pastor in our church, Agape House of Worship, I strongly encourage you to find this on YouTube if you haven't, or if you're not familiar. It's where Agape House of Worship in Roselle, New Jersey. Our pastor, Pastor Jide, preached what I would call a life-changing message of purpose under the title of a series called Here Comes Joseph the Dreamer. Absolutely life-changing. I've literally sent it to everybody I know. And even when I meet new people, after a short while, I'm like, hey, let me send you this. I send it to my bosses at work, my old bosses. I send it to everybody. It really helps you to deal with loss, pain, finding your purpose, finding your passion, because he really based the whole thing on the life of Joseph. So I highly encourage this. You can find it on YouTube. It's titled Here Comes Joseph the Dreamer. It's a series. Make sure, if possible, you can just play when you're in your car or your home. It's I truly assure you that it's life-changing. All right, so our foundation scripture, so to speak, is the parable of the talents. Some of you may be familiar with this or not, which is the parable of the bags of gold. And, the key thing about the story, when Jesus told us this parable, was the fact that Jesus actually he called men, 3 people, and he said, hey, you, I'll give you 5, you, I'll give you 2, you, I'll give you 1. And when the master came back and asked and said, hey, what happened? What did you do with the parable of the talents that I gave you? And unfortunately, the person that had 1 actually buried it. And, just felt, well, and if I want to put this in today's world, there's literally nothing, there's nothing I can do with this one, and didn't do anything with it. And the master rebuked him and said, oh, you wicked servant. Because basically, whatever God has given us, he wants us to use it. Whatever it is that is your ministry, whether it's in business or a type of business or something that you're interested in, you're like, I'm not sure if this is the right way to go. Make sure that you don't bury your talent. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But I just wanted to mention that because for me, that's something that I really use and rely on daily whenever I think about what am I going to say. The story that Jesus told about the master. What would I say happened to the talent that I was given? And this is proverbial, right? It could be a skill, it could be your time, it could be a vision you were given. What did you do with it? And for those people that had 2 and 5, what they had, they were praised. And they said, well done, oh you good and faithful servant. So, God really expects action from us, not excuses. And this is a reminder that we're all giving gifts. And it's not really where you start from. I know some of us here are people that have gone through challenges, are victims, are survivors, are victorious people, really, because, we've gone through a lot, we've gone through a journey that's led us to where we are. And we might even begin to think, oh, I don't have anything left. I left that situation. I don't have anything to rely on. What can I do? nobody cares for me. I don't have the means. I don't have the income. It's okay. Start from where you are, you know. So let's move on. I'm already sort of covering some of the points. So generally speaking, definitions, because we like definitions. Business is, you know, a structured effort to create and to deliver value. It could be a product, it could be a service, and at the end, you're getting some kind of revenue or some kind of, you know, payback, so to speak. And most of the time, you're managing resources like time, people, capital. Entrepreneurship usually means that you've identified a gap or a need in the market and you've worked to design a solution. And most of the time, entrepreneurs always you start with little or nothing, or maybe you start with a lot. Maybe you're like, you know what, I've saved, I've been able to put something together, and I'm ready to take the risk. Either way, it requires you to have a plan. It requires you to have a vision. It requires to have some sort of what I would like to call the ability to go on, because you are basically taking that step up. You know, you're taking that leap of faith. Next slide, please. So we kind of talked about this already. God expects you to increase through what He has given you, through action, through stewardship, which is where you are really using that which God has placed in your hand. So you are taking care of the resources that God has given you with the actions that you take as an entrepreneur. Is again sort of taking a step back and saying, okay, Father God, guide me on how I can use this vision, on how I can use this burden in my heart, on what does this mean? And sometimes it does not mean anything in the beginning. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense in the beginning. Speaking for myself personally, I know that there was a time in the beginning where I almost was like, okay, I don't know, where am I going with this? What does this mean? God, where are you taking me? But I felt strong connections to certain things, to do certain things, to act in certain ways, to be present in certain places. And then eventually with time, God was able to actually lay it all out for me and give me the roadmap. And I always tell people that sometimes what you get from God is breadcrumbs. Sometimes not everybody hears that clear distinction that says, oh, my daughter, that's what we wish we hear, right? I want you to go and start making hair for people. You know, I have a great vision for you. You will make hair for queens. No. Other times it's just somebody just compliments you. Oh my God, I like your hair. I like what you're, did you do this yourself? Oh, I like to try. Can I try? Sometimes God leaves us breadcrumbs. He'll give us little breadcrumbs. So what you have, what God has given you, use it. And then I always say, fear is not a valid excuse. We all feel fear. It's normal. Don't feel like, oh my God, oh, look at this person. She's not afraid. Oh, she's bold. She's there. Yes, we're bold in the Lord. And it's good for you to feel afraid, but it's not a valid feeling. It's not a valid excuse to bury your feeling. And also make sure that you have some how do I put this? You're rooted in accountability. You're rooted in making sure that you have that sort of, again, is it a plan? Is it a design? What is my next step? Almost like a checklist. Can I check it? Can I check it? Now with technology, this is a separate topic. You can do so much. You can do research. So you don't even need anybody. Before you will almost feel like, oh, I need to have an accountability partner. I need to talk to my friend. If you are in a situation where you don't have any of those things, it's okay. As long as you're able to find your way to get access to a computer, whether you're going to a computer center, if you don't have your own personal one, you can leverage technology to start to throw together your plan and start to build. What do I need to do? What are my next steps? For example, I want to open a beauty salon. What do I need to do? What are the steps of what I need to do? So make sure that you're rooted in accountability, whether it's now something, thankfully, that you can do by yourself, whether it's through people that you have around you. And personally, my type of way of doing things is I always make sure that I pray and I talk to God. So, because most of the time, yes, people may come to you and you may go to somebody and they might say, oh, I don't think it's a great idea. Do you think you should do this? Oh, don't, I'm not sure. Are you sure you'll be able to handle this by yourself? Who's going to help you? And then they plant the seeds of doubt. So even though God is giving you is the breadcrumbs, is giving you the direction, is giving you the vision, you have the faith. Somebody might just come and knowingly or unknowingly just dissuade you. So just make sure that, you are very careful who you share your plan, your dream with, and that you start from a place of prayer. So let's talk about a little bit. Let's go more into the sort of kingdom stewardship, which is the next slide. So it kind of goes back to what we've used as our foundation from the very beginning, that what we do is almost a form of worship to our God. Because, I'm speaking as a Christian, I'm speaking as a proud kingdom entrepreneur. It's a way for God's glory to reflect in your life. So I personally believe, and Pastor Yohande kind of alluded to it, that anything that is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Bring a spirit of excellence into what you're doing. Do as you're doing for God, not for yourself. When I train people, I used to tell people, like, for example, if you're doing a simple phone call and you are the person on the other end providing that sort of customer service, you're picking up the phone. Answer the phone, talk to that person how you would like to be spoken to. You know how when we call a bank or we call an institution, we're like, oh my God, this person is so polite, so respectful. I had a really positive experience. And then sometimes you're like, sorry, who's your manager? I want to speak to your manager. Always put your best foot forward. Always lead with excellence. Always make sure that wherever you go, people can see, the God in you. Next slide, please. And know the difference, right? One of the things that is important for us as kingdom entrepreneurs is to know the difference. What is the difference between why we're doing things and why perhaps others are doing things? And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, we're all not the same. We're all different. We all have different anointing, and the Lord has planned our journey differently. But you need to know your why. Why am I doing something? Am I doing this just for profit? Or am I doing it because I'm being obedient? Am I doing this because this is a God-given vision, or just because this is a market opportunity? And again, a market opportunity can become a God-given vision. It's just how you run with it is really important. When you're talking about or thinking about scaling, and you're thinking, okay, I have to grow at all costs. I don't mind who I step on. I don't mind if I cheat. I don't mind, if you lack integrity in your dealings. People can't trust you. Sometimes there's some people that when they tell you good morning, you really want to go check outside and see, is it really morning? Because that person is not somebody that you feel like you can trust their word. You don't want to be that person. You also want to make sure that you're not necessarily being cutthroat, but at the same time, you're being collaborative and uplifting. So let people begin to wonder, like, oh my God, who is that guy? Who is that girl? There's just something about how he or she handles things. And again, we're not perfect. I'm speaking as a work in progress, but you always want to make sure that you're collaborative, you're uplifting, and that the God in you is shining all the way. So again, make sure that when it comes to like ethics, that is a non-negotiable. Don't say, oh, you know what, for this deal, I really want to get this deal. I'm just going to look the other way. Whereas for that deal, oh, I'm going to, go down the straight and narrow. But for the other deal, oh, nobody's looking. I think I'm just going to look no. If you're a kingdom entrepreneur, remember you're representing God. You need to make sure that you are carrying and showing the God in you. So, okay, what happens? Now that we kind of get a sense of what to do, what should motivate us, how should we carry ourselves, really, we want to talk about like our mindset, right? Which is the next slide. Like, so what is the what, the why, the how? What does this mean? Our attitude, our behavior, our action, our success, right, is very important. So first of all, what is your why? Your why could just be your journey. It could be you're a survivor, or you had a negative experience, or maybe you're somebody who's just a visionary. and God just gives you all these ideas. Or maybe you're somebody that an opportunity came, you're able to jump into it. Not everybody will necessarily have a pain to purpose story, but whatever it is, make sure you clarify and understand your why. Again, that is not something that anybody can do for you. You have to understand. And your why as a kingdom entrepreneur must always be tied back to God's word. And then again, make sure you take a step back and look at, am I ready? And when we say readiness, it could be a readiness of, okay, am I going to go and get a loan right now? Or am I going to start small and build slowly? Or do I feel like I have enough to just, hit the ground running? You got to do, I kind of alluded to it earlier. You got to do the research. You got to really take your time. If you know people that have done the work, you can go to them and talk to them. Again, you can leverage technology because sometimes you're feeling alone, you're feeling by yourself, you're feeling that you can't share that information. Do not discount the importance of technology, but make sure that you have a plan. Decide what is like your model. I know a lot of people, we talk about a lot about, oh, side hustle, side hustle, side hustle. I always say this, side hustle is not a bad thing. It can be a starting point. But just remember that that side hustle can be that business that you're going to use to fund the kingdom of God. So don't just look at it on the side and say, well, it's just my side hustle. I just do it when I'm bored. Or because it's my side hustle, I'm not going to put some structure around it, and you're missing out on key ways to grow your business. You're missing out on key ways to really be able to impact and to be able to connect with more people. So make sure that you choose a business model. Make sure you write your business plan. This is the fun part, right? And sometimes for some people, this is the difficult part. But trust me, it's not as bad or as hard as you think. Make sure you register and structure your business. Some people always tell you the disclaimer, oh, speak to an accountant, speak to a tax attorney. Yes, but you can start by doing research yourself, just so you don't understand, like, okay, where does, my type of business, what type of structure will suit it? And remember what I always say, or what I've been saying since I started, because I know that a lot of people are really afraid of technology. A lot of people are afraid of AI. And I know this is not a session on AI, but I just have to plug it because I believe in using tech for good, because there are people that want to use it for evil. But we're children of God, so we will use tech for good. This is where, again, you can leverage technology to really start to pull together what is the structure of the business I have. How can you can even ask tech questions like, how do I get my, my EIN set up? How do I get, what type of banks do you think is better for this type of business? Like the questions that you think is so silly is not. You'll be able to get some structure. So gone are those days where you have to go sit down with Joe Blogs or J Blogs and you have to like, oh, help me, show me the way, And at the end, I'll be very happy to share some resources. I'll have some links for you that'll tell you like how you can they'll give you templates for how to write a business plan and how to set up your business. I'm very happy. I actually have some stuff I'll share with TouchLink. They'll email it to everybody. So at least you have a starting point, but at the same time, feel free to just sort of do your research, ask questions. If you already know somebody in the business and you feel comfortable talking to them, it's okay, I listen to people sometimes, they say, oh, I don't like when people say, I want to pick your brain. I understand why some people might be offended by that, but that doesn't really offend me because I think that I actually prefer when people reach out and they're looking for guidance. And remember, if you're a kingdom entrepreneur already, it is really your responsibility to make sure that you actually support and you can help. And there are different type of businesses where you can actually structure it in the way that people can actually pay up. If it's like a product, people can pay up front, and then after they pay, that's when you deliver. So you almost like you get payment for it. So there are different ways you can do it. If it's a service, again, you can bill up front. It just depends. As long as you are very clear, this takes us nicely to like compliance, contracts, policies. As long as you're very clear about what your method and what your process is, and especially if people love your product or they love the sound of your product, people will work with people, will be patient. I remember there was a young lady that she had been on, I think the UK version of the Shark Tank, like The Apprentice. And so she set up a business where she did crowdfunding, first of all, but more importantly, she set up a business to sell tights, women tights. And what she did was you could order and you were given very clear explanation of, hey, you order, let's say in June, you're not going to get your tights until September because we got to make it, got to manufacture it. So it just depends on the type of business, obviously, but there are businesses where you can start with, little or no money down. There are also businesses where people can pay a deposit. Just remember, all we're talking about is that you are doing this the God way. So it's not like we're taking people's money and then, we're not delivering the service. So this is where we start to think about kingdom precision. That's what I call it. You got to think, kingdom entrepreneur, like I have to be precise, but as a kingdom person. So you can start small. It's okay to fail fast. In technology, we talked a lot about the agile method where it's almost like an iterative process. You keep going. So you start, you fail, you start, you fail. You don't say, oh, let me get to the end and then I'm going to test my product. No. So for example, you're baking cakes, get some of your friends to come and test your cake. Don't just get to the end. Don't taste the cake and then release it out. No. So I just use a very easy example there. So make sure that you have the opportunity to keep taking small steps. If you need to fix something, you can fix it. You keep learning. Again, remember, I'm the queen of anything that is worth doing and always worth doing well. So if you're going to do something, keep learning so that you can be the best in that field. If you become the best in the field, people will start to look for you. If you imagine you're making, let's say, mugs, teacups, and you're selling one teacup $500. If people love your teacup because maybe of what your brand stands for or a particular design or shape, people will pay $500 for your teacup. So as long as you're the best at it, people have the experience, maybe it's the packaging, maybe it's the customer service, it's just something about you, people will pay for it. So if you ever feel doubt or you're scared or you're like, oh, I don't know about this product, it's not making money, I've been doing this for 2-3 years, just remember how many breads exist in supermarkets, how many different bread brands, how many different type of water that God gave us for free is being bottled and sold and we're buying it. And that exists. You go to a supermarket, you see like a long array and you're like, oh my God, which brand am I buying? Which brand is the best? Which brand tasted funny the last time? And again, remember, not everybody is your customer, and that's okay. Like, let's say you're starting your business. Again, this depends on the type of business. Not everybody is your customer. Don't worry about Jane that did not even ask you how business is going, or that did not even try to buy stuff from you, or that is your friend but has never ordered from you before, and you're there thinking, oh my God, Jane does not love me. No, don't worry, forget about Jane. God is going to bring your own customers to you. So not everybody is your customer, and that's okay. And I always say this, like, design your future model, which is what happens in 5 years? What happens in 10 years? What happens in 20 years? Is this a legacy that I want to pass to my children? Is this something that I would like to sell in 10 years and move on to something else? Is this something I want to scale to a specific level and then I'm going to add some type of businesses to it? Have some plan and dream big. Just dream big. Don't be scared. Just remember what God said, like, just look. How far can you see? That's how far I will bless you. That's how far your children will be. So don't think small. Think big when it comes to your God-given business or to be a kingdom entrepreneurship. Think as big as you can. And then when I talk about exit strategy, what I mean is, again, some businesses you can kind of hand over to your children and your children's children, or the business will be in place for 200, 500 years, or and there's some businesses that, again, maybe they're just a starting point for something else that God is giving you, or maybe you started it and you yourself don't even know why you're doing it, but God will then eventually kind of show you, like, okay, this is the path that I want you to take. And remember, I mentioned this earlier. Always, if possible, always ensure that you have people that you can go to for guidance. Like I said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. some people don't like it when you say, can I pick your brain? So don't say, can I pick your brain? Just be honest and say, hey, I'm starting a small business. I need you. I would really appreciate if I could spend some time with you and kind of discuss to the level that you feel comfortable. Most people, kingdom entrepreneurs, will be happy to sit down with you and help you out. And time management. Always plan. I started in project management, so planning is a big thing for me. Your time is very valuable. You may also have limited time. For example, you have a family, or you're a wife, you have kids, or you're a single parent. We all sort of have different situations, so you may actually not have a lot of time. So you need to really come up with a plan to say, oh, throughout the day, I will not have planned to work on this. Instead of postponing that for 5 years, you have to make some sacrifices and say, well, between 8 and 12 p.m. and 12 a.m., 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., that is when I'm going to actually have time. And you will have to sacrifice that. So maybe everybody else is going to bed, or they're watching a nice movie, or they're going out. I always talk about seasons. There's seasons in life. I'm very disciplined when it comes to my time. I'll talk a little bit about this at the end. So if something is not honoring the God in you, or is not pushing you towards your purpose, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I would love to be there, but I'm going to have to miss this. I would love to be there, but I'm going to have to take a rain check and do this some other time. So your time management is very, very important. It's key. Make sure that you really plan carefully, and that you're managing your time carefully. And once you've done all this, I'm expecting you to start walking as a leader for Christ, as a kingdom entrepreneur, as that everything you do should be different. Now that you've come to this session, right? You remember you've done research on your products. Next slide. Remember, you must know your business inside out. That's another thing. So people will say, "Oh, I have a business. I'm selling a mobile phone," and they will say, "Okay, so how many mobile phones did you sell last year?" Oh, I'm not really sure. Maybe between 50 to 75. No, you almost have to be exact and precise. You need to know how many mobile phones did you sell last year? And how many mobile phones are you planning to sell this year? Are you planning to sell next year? You need to build it in to say, if I sold 75 last year, I plan to sell 100 or 125 this year. Next year, I'm going to 150. So really, you're walking like you're selling 150. You're planning around your business like you're already selling 150. It's not when you get to 150, then you're like, oh my God, I just realized it. I need somebody to help me with this. Oh, how am I actually going to post this to my client? No. You have to start thinking about that and planning that. So be financially and also really strategically educated about your business. Know your tools, know your systems. And when you get to the point where you start hiring people, this is key. Hire like-minded people. And I have to tell you guys, staffing is always going to be a challenge. Sometimes in the beginning, you don't have money. So remember, you're going to be everything. I remember when we started our business, I was basically everything. I was answering the phone. I was cleaning the office. I was, showing up and pitching products. I was, doing numbers and financials. It was completely crazy. I actually had a challenge with revenue collection, which is Pastor PY's area. So she'll be shaking her head at me because I was so focused. I almost forgot to invoice my clients. Like literally, till today, the VA is owing me a lot of money. VA, if you're hearing this, because I did not invoice them on time. So you need to really just be very much aware of those things that you might just overlook. And I always say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So sometimes it might seem a little too much for people when you're like, oh, I really appreciate you if you can make payment by this time, or you're following up. No shame in your game. When you're following up to get paid, it's okay. As long as you're not rude, disrespectful, aggressive, and you have a system, you're following it, and you've already explained everything to your client, there should be no surprises. So for example, if your invoice is due upon payment, make sure you let the client know upfront that their invoice is due upon payment. Don't send them an invoice and then say, oh, your invoice is due upon payment. It's like they might say, well, you didn't tell me, so now you gotta wait a week or 2 weeks. So communication is key. How, always communicate upfront, as well as communicating with clients. Make sure you're communicating even with your staff. Like, your staff should be tapped into your vision. They should know where you're going. If you, like I said, if you sold 75 mobile phones last year and you plan to sell 150, let's say, this year, they should not be thinking that our target is 75. If people are working with you, they should know the target is 150. Everybody should be working towards the same goal. And make sure that there's fair treatment of clients, of staff, of vendors. PY mentioned, I'm a tough cookie. I take after my dad. So my standards are very high. But even I have to work on that communication, how you communicate to people, how you treat people. Because you have to make sure those are the people around you, that you have to make sure that excellence that perhaps you have in the product also carries to those things. And, we kind of alluded on this earlier, but ensure that you're operating with legal and spiritual accountability. Proverbs 11:1, the Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate ways find favor with him. Kingdom entrepreneurs, I mentioned it earlier, we don't cheat people. If there's an error in an invoice, we correct it, we apologize. We don't say, oh, the client did not notice, so let's just keep it moving. No, we make sure that we continue to work and show the God in us, that God is the center of everything that we're doing. So once we've done all this, so remember now, we understand our foundation, we know, who we are in Christ, that God has made us stewards of his gifts, of his talents, of his vision. And we've really, gone through almost like sort of precision, why are we doing this? What do we want to do? And then we're already leading, we're walking, like children of God, because we are financially educated about our business, we know everything that we're doing. That takes you nicely to become what I call a kingdom activator. Literally, you are working for God. You are activating. You did not bury your own talents. Now you can really empower other people, right? You can empower your community. Sometimes, as a business or the type of business you are, it might be, or the type of, let's say, initiative. Say you even started a nonprofit. You can still be a kingdom-minded person, even if you're doing nonprofit. The God in you is shining through. And if you're able to create and give people jobs, the God in you is activating, because everyone will say, oh my God, I work for that person, I work for that guy, I work for that lady. Oh my God, the way she talks, the way he talks, what they do, oh, excellence. People can see that excellence in you. Also, of course, once you start to make those billions that we want you to make, then you can fund God's work. You can do more work. You can do outreach. You can help people. You can do your own passion projects. The sky is your limit in terms of what you can do. I mean, just look at the story of Joseph, right? He's a perfect example of pain to purpose, because his brothers really sold him into slavery because of his dream. And they were jealous of him with his coat of many colors. And then, of course, he went through prison, went through all the trials, was accused. But at the end, when he got to that top position, he was still able to show mercy. He was kind. He didn't say, oh, look at my background. Oh, based on everything that I've encountered, I'm going to be a horrible person to people. Those people don't know what I experienced to get to where I am. So I'm not going to be nice to everybody. Do you know what I did to get to where I am? No. He really just showed God's love in how he behaved. And so this is just a reminder that, your business, your passion project, your community work, whatever you're doing, it's really your pulpit. Not everybody might get the opportunity to minister in church, to become a minister, to preach. That may not be a gift. God has empowered you to really go and spread his gospel in the marketplace through how you're running your business. So make sure that you're using your voice for good. There are great examples in the Bible which we've listed that you can read up a little bit on, like the Proverbs 31 woman who was known till today. She's used. I know many men use it in their homes, and many women pray to be her. And I mentioned Joseph already, and Lydia, who actually is touted as one of the early supporters of the church. She was known for selling this luxury purple wear outfit. So there's just so many ways that people can really see the God in you. So I'm going to wrap up because we had 30 minutes and I'm trying to respect people's time.
Yeah.
But what is our
We
kingdom?
have some questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
I tried to
Do you
answer
want to
some.
take questions from the other? Okay. I'm
I
sorry.
tried,
I'm
no, you're
sorry to
fine.
interject.
No, go ahead. I was saying that I tried to answer some when I saw them, but I also wanted to make sure I was on
Yeah.
track with time. So
Yeah. So do you want to take it now, or you want to finish?
no, I'm happy I can take some questions and then we can round up. I think
Okay.
this is a perfect.
So let me look at them from the beginning. I think we have quite a few here. Again, thank you. That is so powerful. Thank you for such powerful session. There's a lot that, in fact, my notes are really filled up. There's a question here about, does anyone have a sample business plan to share? What does that look like? So you're going to send us a sample, and I will share it
Yes.
with the team.
Yes, I will be honored to share some resources with Touchlink, and they will be able to send it out. So if you're not signed up, please make sure you are. And so as part of that, you will have like a template for like a business plan. So I think at least that answers that one.
Okay, and then you already answered this one. Is there a business I can start with no money? You already answered that one, that there are several things, right? That we can start with no money.
Most businesses you can start with no money. It just depends on how you set it up.
Yeah. There's another question here. How does one deal with imposter syndrome when you are in a business space amongst other business professionals?
What imposter syndrome? There's nothing called imposter syndrome. Don't believe into it. It's just, I think that personally we're human and we naturally have that feeling of insecurity or fear, which is normal. Like I think we all have those moments. But as God's children, remember we walk in boldness. So you want to start to, from this moment, to really start to affirm yourself that you don't have imposter syndrome, that God wanted you to be where you are, because you mentioned that you are in a business space among other business professionals. Can you imagine? That's where God put you, that's where God wants you to be. And remember, that vision, that idea, that hand that God placed on you is different. Your calling is different from everybody else. So even though I know it seems like easier said than done, I want to assure you that with God, you can put aside anything that might hinder you, because most of the time, the first thing that will hinder us is ourselves. And that usually just comes from the fear of failure. For some people, it's the fear of, embarrassment. It's the fear of people saying no. It's the fear of denial. It's the fear of not being, oh my God, how will I explain that I was not a success at this? How will I explain that I failed at this? But most of the time, if you don't try something, you won't even know. And just to put it out there, I don't know if I mentioned this, it's okay to actually fail at something, because most of the time we're really sort of developing those, invisible bones and strengths of, okay, this didn't work out this way. Okay, now I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to start from it. I'm going to take a step back. What did I do wrong? But I would say that what I always found has helped me from the very beginning, because I don't really believe at all that I have imposter syndrome, is because I just take everything back to God. Before I do anything, I literally always say a prayer. Like literally, like anything that is of consequence to me, I always say a prayer. I say, God, go with me. God, give me the spirit of boldness, give me the spirit of strength. And it looks like I'm getting better and better at it, but I just know that it's the God in me that's working. And you might say, does that mean I don't have God in me? No. You need to just affirm that that's not something that you're going to allow to hold you back. And really, you can see some of the examples that we've shared in the Bible. Really, really go and dig into that. I mean, fantastic story, the story of Joseph, when you relook it, the way that it was analyzed in Here Comes the Dreamer. It reads more than just a regular story. We all know the story, like everybody knows the story of Joseph. What's there? If you go and look for that series, Here Comes the Dreamer, I'm telling you, hopefully you'll come back and tell us like there's nothing called imposter syndrome anymore, because you're working in God's purpose and God's plan for you. So that was a long response to that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We still have more questions. There is another question. Actually, I was just thinking about it. Talking about the business law or liability insurance. I
Yeah.
know that
Some businesses actually do require you to have insurance. In fact, some landlords, let's say you're renting a commercial space, some landlords will even still require you to have insurance and put their name on your insurance. So, like the whole business world is like a whole interesting thing. But some businesses have different types, and some businesses just require you to have what they call like professional liability insurance. Some will
liability.
specific types, even all the way to like discrimination, workers' comp, once you start to hire people. Some of this information is actually, believe it or not, available on like the New Jersey State website, while others you usually have to kind of find out based on whatever type of business that you're going into. Some of the resources I'm going to share will also help to point that out. But really, really, yes, those are things that when I talk about you doing your research, understanding your space, understanding where you're going, what you have to do, those are the kind of things you have to go through. For example, I think something, a simple example, like to open like a beauty salon, you need to have a certain type of license. So you can't just wake up one day and be like, oh my God, I know I'm amazing at this. God has told me I should go open one, and you just go open one. You might get shut down. So you need to have certain type of licenses as well for a certain type of business. So yeah, that's a really good point that was made to say know the law around certain products or certain services that you're going to do, especially because insurance and the license part of it are not necessarily the same, but are important together as part of compliance.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. So is there an age limit to start a business? Some feel they are too young, while others feel they are too old.
No, I absolutely not. I've seen and I've read stories because I love to read stories and autobiographies of people. I've seen and read stories of people that started businesses from when they were literally when they were a child. Maybe their parents saw something in them or they expressed it and they started. And I've seen people that started, once they're older. I mean, we have some sort of well-known people that have started businesses very late. Some people started 40, 50, 60. I don't believe personally that there's an age limit. You can even have been involved in other type of businesses and you're really like pivoting into a new business. There's no age limit. Don't let that sort of hold you back. Remember, this is God's plan, God's purpose for you. So pursue it. If we have so many examples in the Bible of people that historically has been looked at to say, oh, you're too old to do this, you're too old to do that, you're too old to have kids, you're too old to do that. And God has shown each time that no, that age is really nothing but a number.
Does anybody have any more questions? I think we have exhausted all the questions here, but I do have a question. This is just coming from some people's mindset. They might be thinking, how do I know what business to start? I've started like 3 different retailing and I've failed. I ended up owing money, going into bankruptcy. Now I don't have good credit and I need to, and I'm interested in starting a business. So they're saying, Diana, help me.
First of all, this is a controversial one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Perhaps business is not for everyone, and that's okay. Like, don't feel the pressure that you have to have a business. I need to always, oh, my friend is doing something, or because, like PY said, I've had 3 businesses, so I must build another 4th one. Not everybody has to have a business. However, what I found is most of the time, you always start with like your purpose. Some purpose that God has highlighted, with those breadcrumbs that God has given you through maybe your life experiences of things that have happened to you. Sometimes not only just that I feel so passionate about this. Oh my God, I love to bake cakes. I think I'm going to start baking cake. Okay, that may not necessarily be a path that you can make money in. So most of the time, what breaks, what stirs your heart, what are you interested in, what is something that perhaps you've experienced or you've lived through and you're like, okay, I wish at the time I was going through this, I wish I had this. But a lot of businesses are actually started from need. Like I've seen a lot of Black entrepreneurs recently that have really started to come up in businesses. And most of the time they started a product because they wanted a product, they couldn't access or they didn't get the type of product, or they had a sensitive type of skin, hair, whatever. And then they're like, oh, I'm gonna create my own. So sometimes you can start with that stirring in your heart or whatever stirs your spirit or whatever your experience has been. Secondly, you can also sort of look at the type of skills that you have. I really advocate for this. Try to align anything that you're doing, with, at least in the beginning, with what you're naturally good at. Once you you have that sort of funding coming in, you're making money by God's grace, then you can start to play with different ideas and do different things, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's when you're really, you start to have multiple businesses and multiple things, and you're making sort of more strategic decisions in terms of where you feel like your money can give you sort of better return. But in the beginning, you can look at what you're naturally good at. I just give an example. Just because something sounds good does not necessarily mean it's you. There are some things in you or what you love. So, for example, some people will say, "Oh, I love kids," but I don't really know. Like, I love kids. I always want to be around kids, you know. But that's it. They just take it that that's nothing. Maybe I'm just going to continue to volunteer and work with kids in the children's ministry, and that's it. But actually, your calling could really relate to working and doing specific type of projects for kids where there's a need, where there's some challenges that you notice, where where you've worked. That you can start with that. Another thing that is very, very, very important is what you currently do. The sort of, if you have a job or you're currently paid for, the talent that you have, that's another way to start. So one of the things that I do consulting as well. And that's just something that I was doing for other people when I was in what I would call like sort of Wall Street or whatever. But to me, it was just normal. Like I never actually thought, oh, it could be a business. I could get paid for it. But it comes so naturally to me to help somebody put together a plan, to design something, to put together a pitch deck, a presentation. So that's just come so easy for me that I just realized that, oh, I can monetize this gift that I have. And there's nothing that is too small. Remember, David was a shepherd. So it might be the gift that you are discounting that might actually be the gift that will help you or propel you to the next place. And I think I mentioned pain points. What pain points did you resonate with, or have you experienced as you're doing that thing? What do you think people are willing to pay for? What is something that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that nobody has thought of a solution for this? Sometimes, that's God's way of really not nudging you and really sort of pushing you. So you really need to align. I think, I see the SHAPE acronym there, aligning sort of like the gift that God has given you to what really stirs your heart, like we said, to what you can do, to your personality, the experience you have. And again, assess your capacity. So for example, like I think I kind of alluded to it earlier, depending on where you are in your season of your life, there are certain things that you may be able to do, and there's certain things that you may not be able to do. And just because you can't do certain things straight away does not necessarily mean that you will not be able to do it in the future. So assess your capacity. Let's say the business you would love to do require you to have a storefront, but you're not able to start with a storefront. Maybe you can start digitally. Maybe you can start doing like with pop-ups. Maybe you can, like don't just think, oh my God, until I can open a storefront and I can have my own beauty salon and people can come. Actually, from a business perspective, if you just go straight into that, you got to pay for the space. You got to furnish. There's so many things. It might not be something you should take on immediately. So you really need to look at your capacity, and then depending on the service or product that you're doing, what is the best way that I can sort of roll this out? And what else? Always test. I think I kind of touched on it earlier. Always test, always collect feedback. Just be very humble, be very patient with the process. And of course, at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, always ask God for confirmation. Ask God for those little breadcrumbs. And I think Adiza said we're all graced differently. Exactly. We're absolutely all graced differently. So some people, like let's say, they like to talk. And you're thinking, okay, what can I do with this? I really need that idea. You're this. cracking your head every day, like, oh my God, what can I do? But you can talk. That's something that you can do. That's something that God has given you, just to validate, what Adiza said. So be very careful. Make sure that you're looking at the capacity you have so that you don't just go and, end up in debt.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we're out of time, but thank you so much. I hope everybody has been blessed. I have been blessed. There's so much information to reflect on. Even if I'm not, I think I have my hand full, but at least I can use it to guide others, right? It can be the light
Yes.
and help
Yes.
people to rise. So yes.
Yes. People
Well,
need it.
it's been great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Can people just give her an applause? Can you give her some kisses, images, emojis? I say thank you. It's been so awesome. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So does anybody? Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for her before she leaves? All right. I'm definitely going to bring you back because we have to do second aspect of this. Now that we have business, we have issues, right? So we can address those issues. But this has been so good, and you've cheered us up. And now there's no excuse. I mean, like you said, not everybody needs to go into business. But I like what you said at the beginning. You said think like an owner. I love that.
And if there's anything I can
like
do, I'll be more than happy to help. I know most of the time when you want to start, sometimes you don't really have support. I'm more than happy to support in any way that I can. The only thing is, remember, I'm very, very particular is excellence. So if you're ready, let's do it. I do not charge. I don't charge for that. But anything I can do just to
one thing that we didn't even mention that we can also encourage people is cooperative. Like 2 or 3 people can come together to actually start a business. I mean, especially we are talking about Christian kingdom
minded people. Yes.
So it doesn't have to be you. Yeah, you can have 3 people come up together, team up.
But still put it on my legal hat. Just make sure that you guys have an agreement. If you need help with that,
yes.
we're God's children, but it's good to be fair to everybody as well. Always still have an agreement. So just make sure that you dot your cross your T's and dot your I's, like they say. But it's
Don't just say it's my brother or it's my sister. Make sure that you document it and you are very intentional about the structure, the legalities concerning partnership is very important. If you can't do it alone, but there's always a beginning. But thank you so much, everybody. Again, this is TouchLink. We do this every third Thursday of the month. TouchLink is a non-profit organization that supports, empower, and uplifts victims and survivors of domestic violence. And I just want to encourage everybody, especially as we are approaching the summer month, there's a need to help people in our community in the services that we are doing. Please visit us on our website, support the hard work that we do. On the link, Bola has been so good to post all the links there. Please, we need your support. We are raising partners, even if it's $50 every month. There's no change that is too small. You'll be shocked how much your $20, $50 help put people back on track. It helps a lot. So I just want to put that out there, that look, TouchLink is moving forward. We are helping people in the community. There's a lot, but at least we are doing one person at a time, one community at a time. Thank you so much for joining, and God bless you. Until next time, we say thank you.
Thank you so much.